Alright everybody, welcome back. Now if you didn't see my last episode, what we were doing is making it so that our ride command could take an argument and that we could ride any mob that we wish. Now we're going to be looking at our configuration file and we're going to be making it so that our entity type is actually loaded from a config file. Now in order to do this, we're going to begin by actually creating our config file. We can do this by right clicking on the root of our file structure and creating a new file, and we're going to call this config.yml. So config.yml takes something called the YML format. Now the YML format is the same as in our plugin.yml. It is the name of the thing, the key, with a colon, a space, and then the value. So a name and then the value is the first plugin, a version, and then the value is 1.0. Inside our config.yml, we're going to create a default ride mob. So we're going to write that in. Just like with variables, we're going to use the lower camel case, which means we start up with a lowercase letter and then every word after that has an uppercase letter at the start. Now we're going to set this with a colon equal to a string, and that string is going to be the default mob that we want to use. In this case, we're going to use bat. So our default mob, if they don't specify a mob, is bat, but how do we make sure that that gets loaded in? Well, inside our plugin, to begin, we're going to make sure our config is saved. So we're going to do the following. What this is going to do is take our config.yml, which is inside our file structure. It's actually going to copy it, and it's going to place it inside our plugins folder, our name of our plugin. So I think that is, if we take a look in our plugin.yml first plugin, so inside /plugins/first plugin, there's going to be a config.yml file that our users can use. So to do this, we're going to save the default config. Note that this method won't do anything if the config is already present, so you don't need to worry about it overriding anything. Now inside here, what we want to do is make sure we set it up, but again, we want to be very careful. We want to do a lot of error checking, because when you're a plugin developer, you need to be making sure that you are 100% safe from your users. If your users make a mistake, you want to either correct it for them or give them some sort of backup, some sort of alert system, because you never want to be leaving your users in a position where they can break their own server. So to do this, we're going to begin by loading in the entity type, just like we did up here, but rather than setting entity type equal to something that's passed in as an argument, we're going to set it as something which is passed in with a config. So to do this, we're going to go on a new line and make our variable. And we're going to set this equal to this. .getConfig, that method is going to get a type file configuration, which is a YML file. And then we're actually going to call a method which is down here, and it is getString, as you can see, and it actually takes the path, and the path if we go into our config.yml is just default ride mob, so we're going to get default ride mob. Notice how this errors because we're giving it a string and it's looking for an entity type. So again, just like we did in ride command, we want to get the value of. So let's do that. And now we're going to check if this type is null. If it is null, we're going to revert back to the default. If it's not, then we're going to succeed. So let's try that. Now as you can see right now, we're always spawning the bat no matter if the type worked or if it didn't. If the type equals null, we actually want to spawn the bat and we actually want an error message. So we're going to copy our getlogger.info and place that inside of here. As you see, we've now got an error message. You specified an invalid mob in the config. However, if it did work, congratulations, we actually want to make a ride command that works with the type, so let's do that. Now the final thing we need to do is make sure that we add our configuration file to our plugin's root path. So to do that, we're going to go into File, Project Structure, and inside Artifacts we want to add something new, we want to add a file, and we want to add our config.yml file. Now if you need to find that, you can of course find that. Ours is inside our first plugin, and then config.yml. We're going to hit OK, and as you can see, that's now added to our jar file. We're going to hit the apply key, we're going to hit OK, and now next time you build your plugin, you'll be able to use a config which should be automatically generated. And that is our first plugin.